This time, obeying Ngao Dong Quok's mission, Duan Lam still did not release the music of the gibbon. It was worried about painting the music of the gibbon so powerful, and he would form a rebel. Therefore, for a while to the pharmacist, Duan Lam immediately took out the beast, continued to find out. 2 months later, Duan Lam finally held the fidelity. At this time, he dared to bring painted music from the summoned beast in his pocket. Previously, Duan Lam for painted music is still a bit different. Sun Music became the following beast. He discovered, this head of the music painted the gibbon was roughly rough in the 6-story gas training, approaching the 7-story gas training. It can be said that, so the great love, can sign the contract with him, is extraordinary random. This all must be converted with young people who provide young people to death. Because of the relationship, at this time painted music, the main city was honestly standing in Duan Lam behind, did not dare to have a bit of protest. Duan Lam used to always wonder how to promote the music of the gibbon, because in front of the music, it was only based on a buffalo body. In wondering for a long time after no results later, Duan Lam suddenly thought of the servant, so he immediately found a bulky iron stick. Iron sticks are estimated to have 5 meters of school. Extraordinary weight. Duan Lam uses his strength, nor up to. In Duan Lam, he ordered the command, painted the gibbon to catch the iron sticks. Very easy to pick up the iron stick. Duan Lam looked at the music painted with music. In his heart, he was satisfied. This painted music of this ape goes down, presumably can bring a lot of small and weak monks into crushed meat. 3 days later, Duan Lam returned to the subject, prepared to go to the internal task of the road to continue a little mission, earn some spiritual jelly. Unexpectedly, in Tongmon in the internal news, it surprised him again. Tongmon arrogant Eastern National besieged, although successful, but a tragic loss. Arrogant of the national master in the air, the elder was under the situation, performed a kind of self-attack, seriously injured the elder and a disciple. It is said that many of the disciples and the disciples in the disciples were all in the strong explosion or being seriously injured. Duan Lam last time acting captain, middle-aged American side, because Phi HAC responded in time, just a minor wound spot. But being another team member, 2 people fell down, 3 people were seriously injured. On the other hand, they were even or more slightly wounded. Only perfect no loss, immediately left him and Su Hua in Gung. Making Duan Lam feel sorry is that, with him together with the defense of Han Han, also falling. The summoned by the elder for the elder, treating the elder to restore later. The Grand Master immediately brought the elder's co-head to lock. The coercion ordered him to close the door for 5 years. This time the event, Duan Lam was too touched. Luck him because of the force of his own small, not in the reward in front of his brain dizziness. At this time he picked up a small network. Taking him to train the small 5-story gas to be weak, here the type of fighting in front of him, it was easy to be beaten to death. It seems that working carefully, forever will not be wrong. Duan Lam in his heart silently thought. Later reunite to Tatu, must definitely speed away or are preparing a little later. The elder is a genius summoned beast, still too confident. At this time he has to commit this kind of mistake, so many disciples. In the future, for this genius subject, still away from perfect, these people are too heavy, consider the problem too easily touched. Duan Lam quietly thought. Duan Lam constantly summarized this event to bring suggestions. In his heart appeared in the beginning of the elder departed when the metal was energetic. The original Yang Lam also calculated a 1 with a dangerous point of high remuneration. In hearing the arrogance of the country later, without hesitation to choose a violent hunting, only 5 low-level blocks of lin thatch. Based on the upper mission according to the words, the violence at the second love is relatively weak. Most of them only practice the 5-story mental strength. The characteristics are the strength and thick skin, the 2 hands showing the bare torn very strong force. Anyway, there was paint in the gibbon. Duan Lam Dao did not worry, so peace of mind was comfortable to continue this task. Taking the music of the gibbon, fighting a violent child alone is completely unsuccessful. The East Tong beast is violent in the mountains, this violent largest activity. This mountain is also so called. At the head of violence, Duan Lam opposes a lot of violence. Violence is the earth of love, each one is like the same tank, very difficult to hunt. Anyway, violent Hung Sun and Duan Lam discovered the situation. The same violence was similar to two activities together, one model, each peer had each area of the region. Immediately, a violent painting of the gibbon can cope, facing a model of a too violent only violent, painted music of the ape, relatively tried hard. Immediately, they could bring them to death. Painting the gibbon music is also very large, this is the one that Duan Lam does not want to look. Duan Lam Hoa for half a month of time, to follow a child again a violent child, understanding that the activities, the intentions from the middle found a violent disadvantage. Unexpectedly, the result was disappointing, this and that fiercely loved the beast, except hard, not too obvious disadvantages. Anyway, Duan Lam is still a little discovery, it is the same violence and the same Tan Mok Lang, once falling into the trap, it is very difficult to crawl up. Therefore, Duan Lam went up and thought of dealing with Tan Mok Lang method. Duan Lam in violence on the mountain Dao a little deep pit, then in the deep pit next to the upper hand a little grilled good love to love the meat, waiting for violence to the upper fishing. Anyway, Yang Lam disappoint at it is, in him, he brought a violent seduction to the tunnel, again led charcoal, this only violent residence by his tall body, bringing the fire a little bit extinguished. Earth is violent, nor like Mok Tan Mok Lang's attribute so afraid of the fire. Moreover, according to Duan Lam observed, normally coal fire, perhaps can deal with the 3-story beast, but for the 5-story gas training or more of the beast, it can be said that the effect has been weakened. The more excess is, the other only violent for turning off the charcoal one, but bringing Yang Lam crazy. The violence continuously roared a real voice and brought to another side of the vicinity, so afraid that Duan Lam would run fast and flee. Just came to violence in the vicinity in the next few times, the clever residents were constantly being near the mud towards the pit. Falling at the violent hole, constantly bringing the co-peeling down to the mud to kick at the foot, in the hard work later, in the violent tunnel brought the deep pit, from the middle ran out. What a planet! Duan Lam exclaimed. He absolutely did not think of such a mighty violence. Duan Lam could not help but feel sympathetic, second loving beasts and a really different love level, this and that, the second loving, there was a little spirit. If you want to hunt for violence, it seems like you want to use Tri-Thang. Taking Yang Lam really power, he could only support, poison, he did not think that he could hit more than a violent. Unless he met the violent lack, he and painted the music of the gibbon that could be injured or paid a very small price to complete the mission. But it was a violent a model, most of them acted together, very little separated. Aimed at this violence, the situation of the situation, Duan Lam immediately violated it. Wondering for a long time, Duan Lam had intentional, still wanted to rely on him to trap the trap. The two only violent aggression together are so powerful, so thinking of how to bring them separated, so require many large peaches a little deep pit. Duan Lam in a violent child often went out to earn a highway, dug out some trap holes, and quickly brought a violent besiege inside. Soon, on the other hand, a violent child heard the help of Tan, immediately ran to the rescue. Duan Lam this time did not run away, but provocative that giant bears threw out a fireball. Violent a slap to bring fire bridge, violent towards Duan Lam jumped. Duan Lam quickly ran like crazy, constantly transforming away the route. The great holes, he soon did well camouflage, moreover as a mark. Bumbling for an hour, the violence was finally falling on him well in a deep pit. At this moment, painted music of the gibbon carrying the grab, going to the pit first, a scholarship in a heroic tunnel. Although iron sticks, although the lawlessness created too great damage, but the upper side transmitted to the force, it was still a violent pain. Especially, this painting music is specialized in puzzles. I with it the head, the violence of Han quickly appeared the shocking brain. If it is comparable to energy, even though the music paint is high, it will not see the violence of strength. But this was passive, causing violence to crash continuously. Duan Lam avoided one side, sometimes for violence to release some fireballs, his eyes full of violence, basically the illegal evadive, immediately calculated itself not too afraid of the fire, but on the person who was directly fingers of the fate of the middle of the destiny, was also burned. After half an hour, in a deep pit, a torture of a gibbon was energetic. Sun music jumped into the tunnel, a right, bringing violence to the head of the earth. Duan Lam followed the music of the iron and the iron stakes to the tunnel, bringing the violent beasts to take out and collect it. A gibbon was prepared properly, half-hour flour, collected a different place in a deep pit. Because of the extreme violence of the territory, each piece of the internal area, only one model, immediately counted that these two violent moans were moaning again, nor could it be taken to other local violent localities. Duan Lam really took advantage of this point, bringing two violent threads to use deep separation, step by step to solve, successfully killing two violent only. Duan Lam was happy and brought the second beast to collect, then painted the music of the gibbon to bring the two violent only bodies to pull out. Sun music is an animal diet, originally thoughtful to eat and drink, and was prevented down by Duan Lam. Duan Lam in the vicinity of finding a little firewood, the price emerged. He soon prepared to bake barbecue price, on the top of the baked flow to floating meat. Actually, grilled upper price appeared with grilled golden blocks. Duan Lam in the upper grilled meat scattered him in this world leisurely when he caught the spice, then gave the barbecue to paint the music of the ape. Early waiting for not promptly painted music, proficient, immediately brought barbecue to eat. Sun gibbon painted on the face appeared a personality that was satisfied with the protest, obviously opposing Duan Lam. From becoming Duan Lam a summoned beast, painted music and gibbon are always a perfect summoned beast. The summoned beast is a specialized summoned beast that coordinates the tablet, used for raising the summoned beast, the same taste, and the natural barbecue is not lawless. Duan Lam did so, also existed with painted music to improve ideas. This is only a gibbon that he becomes a summoned beast, but in the end, it is not too bright, naturally has a bit of any disrespectful mind. It was like being able to eat up to his hand, making this painted music with an insults and following him, a mana gibbon spending a relationship that was definitely improved, so the future of combat cooperation, there would be great help. Except for this, in the beast, Quichun, Duan Lam knows, increasing people and souls of affection, is weaker to the best method, so he was sting mind but because of the gibbon making barbecue. Duan Lam was always in a hurry more than 2 hours, just brought half of the violent grilled, finally made painted music and eat well. Duan Lam commanded painted music to peach a cave paint, immediately painted music together in the inside. Duan Lam is located in Sundong, recalling the past few years the department has experienced the same feeling. He even hoped, he currently experienced all a dream, perhaps he woke up, immediately arrived at the planet. But obviously, this is not a dream, this is all extremely true. Early the next morning, Duan Lam opened his eyes and his eyes wandering with his eyes, feeling the outside to the sun, aware of the new day began again. Duan Lam Tan took more than half a day, brought 2 violent threads to grill, made into barbecue, collected in a storage bag, saved as painting music gibbon. Next time, Duan Lam immediately based on the method in front of the method, once again killing heroic murder. In fact, he was careful, every time he hunted and killed before, he had to observe for half a month or more, confirming that each violent hunting and practical practice was familiar enough to defend. For a few relatively powerful strength, Duan Lam is to directly give up, specializing in choosing those relatively ruins to the hands. Duan Lam each time a period of time will return to the pharmacist, see how they manage. Although Duan Lam did not care about the pharmacist harvesting, the subject requires the task, which is still necessary to complete. Just being able to complete the task, Duan Lam ignored the Tun Tu how the intermediaries made a profit of his own money, the other and he cultivated with what relationship. Duan Lam also started practicing him last time to buy 2 martial arts duties. In fact, it was not very different. 2. The continuation of the body's body and the flexibility to increase the flexibility of the object. Duan Lam really finished studying. In the leisurely time, Duan Lam immediately started to practice this martial arts, at the hunting of violence at the same time. Duan Lam will sometimes use martial arts, try to avoid violence to ambush. According to the experience of moving, Duan Lam then Dharma has become more and more flexible, which can be in the giant bear to attack and persevere for a long time. Xian went to autumn, a year another year, now Duan Lam became the 5th-year pharmacist. Through not interrupting the use of knitting use, moreover Duan Lam needs to practice hard, he finally breaks and practiced the 6-story gas, the magic power also increased and then many. The more Yang Lam is happy, painting the gibbon becomes more and more taller. In the 2nd level of beasts, it is also considered as relatively powerful, the full strength to achieve the 7-story gas training. Here 5 years of internal time, Duan Lam also exchanged for a low amount of low-level lin thatch, except for buying useful gas, and accumulating more than 1,000 low levels of lin thatch. This human value, placed in the middle of the disciple also considered relatively roomfu. In the end, many disciples nor dared to go alone to hunting violently, and immediately could not have him so fast to find the spiritual spirit. In fact, there was a job, making Yang Lam relatively surprised. That was his appearance, but for a few years but no matter what transformed. This is Duan Lam, which is always relatively bizarre. He goes into this world where there is also 10 years. Normally a person from 20 years old to 30 years old will have extraordinary clearly transformed, but Duan Lam, fluttering with the same narrative, basically no matter what the appearance is transformed. Duan Lam heard that there was a little ton of the fairy who could cultivate a few Dharma residents. This too much waiting for the practice of cultivation was extremely difficult, too delayed to practice, moreover the requirement of truck ko ky or more to be able to practice, except for a few aii truck ko nutu, the majority of monks did not choose this kind of law. Cultivating the Dharma nor cannot prevent the old age, only on the wide area, delaying the old progress. Again because it requires a waste of time, so cultivating Nan narrative is always in the fairy world that is thought to not work properly. Duan Lam is very clear, he also did not cultivate too much for anything to reside in the Dharma, nor did he understand how to cultivate. For the face why it was still not changed, he was not too clear. This 5 years of time, Duan Lam prayed the fire, 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 and the fire of this 4 magic applications more and more smoothly sailing. Even in Duan Lam a few small people improved under. The power increased and less. For the fire play, this is the first one that holds the magic. He has many times later discovered, maybe through control of the fire in the hands of time condensation, to change the powerful fireball. For example, the same monks at the condenser of the fire will immediately release. This time is really short. This is also the advantage of the fire play, which can be at the afterwards immediately made thuan fat. But for this type of fatty skin, the flesh of the flesh and fat, the fireball can create a very small instant effect. At this time, Duan Lam slowly base on the battle experience to summarize, and he could slowly increase the fireball in his hands, bringing a little larger condenser. Right from the beginning of the time, Duan Lam condensed the fire was not favorable. Once the fire becomes bigger, it will not be stable, so Duan Lam condenses 10 times. Anyway, Duan Lam did not have to be discouraged, but constantly tasted, then brought every tasting result after the results of the 60s down, again a little analysis in it transformed. Slowly, Duanlam discovered that the fireball was not stable, mainly that he was in the fire of the globe in the process, making number 360-degree fire and increasing. The most basic fireball, because it is not big, so this requires it is not high, but the fireball slowly disappears, and immediately requests and increases the stable maintenance. It can be said that, at this time, the technique is a life technique. For how to do this point, Duanlam is his view. In him, Dutuk's hand. This is Duanlam on this world planet that sells his sentence. In fact, the explanation is also very simple, that is the formation of memory muscles. Once the muscles form memory, Duanlam can immediately get into the feeling of condensation greater than the fire. In fact, Duanlam also did so. In hunting violently hung a lot, he did not stop practicing the condensation greater than the fireball. After more than a year of practice, Duanlam finally found and this kind of Dutuk term feeling, capable of condensing to the fire is estimated compared to the front of the front, twice as big. It is also true that there is a great fire on the fire. In the hunting of violent Hungchung promotes important effects. He fire once the fate of violence, he could immediately bring violent flesh and burning flesh. This is also the past few years, he can hunt for violence. Except for this, for fire conflict, Duanlam also has a few new research. Right from the beginning of the time, Duanlam was a bit disregarding fire, but in the next many times using Chum, Duanlam immediately discovered this fire conflict. It was really extremely useful. Because what to say like that? Because Yanglam improves fire to use the method. The vast majority of monks, all condensed into a fire on the front cover, used to prevent attack. In the tricks that could increase the latter, Duanlam discovered that he could slowly control the fire to change the shape. In fact, this manipulating the extraordinary process of arduous, Duanlam is also going through the quantity of the following training. Completing the first stage of changing the following shape, Duanlam immediately brought fire to the true power to promote. He could bring the fire into a very small shield, so the fire-resisted power immediately increased. Duanlam once did an experiment. He was equal to this kind of method, the birth that continued to be a violent attack and his hair was injured. This for many monks is that he thought he did not dare to think of the situation. He had fire to only such a strong hand, so much small hybrid. At the same time, he can also bring fire to become a little bigger, even to cover the whole body, not even more powerful and weak, but the more he can go against a little weakness. For the fireball and the fire of research, in fact, this is the largest Yanglam to harvest. It is true that there is this improvement, causing Duanlam to fight on a large scale. Although it has just entered the 6-story gas training, but Duanlam believes, actually faces a little into the long-term training he also has all wins firmly. This 5 years of Chung, Duanlam also did one thing, that was the music patriarch music martial arts. Sun music force at the same speed was not bad, Duanlam soon noticed this point. Therefore, at Duanlam Hak, the martial arts later, immediately began to bring this and that martial arts music. Sun music is a spirit, moreover there is a contract of relationship, following Duanlam to practice the figure. Over 5 years of practice, painted music currently launches to the world secular, can also claim to be a martial art. Like paint music with this kind of love, it is very difficult to learn humanity. Therefore, Duanlam immediately thought of making him practicing martial arts, not thinking about the effect nor bad. Right now, painting music, increasingly like Duanlam in the world, knowing that servant, dancing to the iron sticks, strong and majestic. Duanlam the reason for this consideration is because, he is in this world, there is no matter what the context and resources, possessing everything, can only rely on himself to take advantage of. But he was private, on the foreign disciples of the middle disciple was normal, again launched to the middle of the middle disciple, which is extraordinary. The four spiritual attributes are quality, excessive with doping, thought in Tu Tian on the way first, can be said to be strong difficulties. In the great quantity of the knitting gas to maintain, he used 5 years of time, from training from the 5-story gas to increase to 6 floors, it can be said to be extraordinary slowly. Therefore, because of solving these problems, Duan Lam can only think of a way to increase his own strength. In Duan Lam, it seems that the strength is not close to being a monk, but it consists of all kinds of competencies, all that can be in the middle fight for the ability to win the capacity. He improved the fireball. If there was a disregard, the other would definitely pay the tragic price of the world. He improved the fire, could make him as possible to resist the attack. It will be martial arts painted music, although in the training of the 7-story gas, it is a combination of fighting strength, absolutely can overcome a lot of 7-story beasts. Although he was not good, but Duan Lam believed, as long as he was good at summarizing, good at taking advantage of his mind, the same can go out of one of his own exposure. Entering the 6-story gas training, you can study fire inflammation upper and new magic, burning fire. Seeing the name, guessing the meaning, the burning fire is through the spiritual energy, bringing certain internal areas to burn up fierce fire, as a relatively powerful magic. In the past, the fire attacking fire was relatively limited, but was the fire burning disagreement, which could be in a large platform in the range of flames, in dealing with the large number of enemies when the effect was relatively perfect. This magic is relatively complicated, taking Duan Lam now against the method of the magic system like that familiar under the situation, also flowering nearly a month of time, can reluctant to export Lieutenant Fire burned. Moreover, this magic also has a great defect, wasting spiritual energy is really too much. Duan Lam drops a burning fire, the whole body of spiritual energy has gone down more than half. So powerful, he did not disappoint him. Surrounding 10 meters in the whole range was in the fire burned below. Duan Lam presumed, reunited to the past, the wolf surrounded him, just waiting for Tan Mok Wolf to approach, release a burning fire, can bring in the scope of Tan Mok Lang a net to catch all. Fire of the law system, which is the attack on the enhancement, the fire burns this magic, can finish the US and show the fire of the law attack. Duan Lam also needs to be in the future to be constantly practicing, to increase the opposition this magic master, faster than release speed. One day, Duan Lam went into the interior of the road mission, constantly looking at a little new mission. In the immediate future, the short-term knitting gas was not lacking. Duan Lam immediately thought of a little task, went out to search for a bit of predestined relationship. In the end, he took his nature, and he was still suffering, and it was very difficult to perform the Kotruk hope. Spending by suffering a period of time, going out to practice for a while. The interior of the road and the foreigner has a great deal of disagreements. Most of the foreign hunting and killing the beast is the owner, but in the internal, most of them take the abide in the subject of the subject to appoint the owner. This is different because the external disciples of the disciples are realistic disagreement. Foreign disciples are weak and weak, only suitable for a little hunting to kill the duties, dangerous urination a little. But the subject cuts the mission, more or less have a few dangerous, so the requirement of real strength a few disciples to complete. Of course, all is not absolutely. The disciples of the disciples were loyal, there were also many hunting to kill the duties, but this and that loved the strength, immediately relatively strong, like Yang Lam in front of him to hunt for violence. The subject of cutting the task, corresponding to the collection will also be a little, the majority is in 10 to 20 level blocks of lin thatch, even there will be a few characteristics of reward items. Duan Lam Nhat Quan's internal audience, giving each other time to do a little relatively, analyzing the profit and danger. After half an hour of careful consideration, Duan Lam welcomed a mundane of the Kim Kwok dynasty to resolve the demon rules of the mission. Previously, Duan Lam was a disciple when he saw the same type of mission. At that time there was a scar that wanted him to work together. He was too refused. The same as the devil, the real strength is weak, basically not likely to be the opponent at the moment. But as Kim Kwok, this task is not the same. In front of the 3 disciples of the 4-story disciple in the demon resolution at the time of disappearance. Therefore, Tong Man Tang Tang presumably has the strength to achieve the spiritual training of the 5-story Le Devil. Achieving gas training the 5 floors of Le Devil are extraordinary rare. Moreover, because Le Devil is all the morphology that exists, a few physical attacks that are difficult to start effectively. Sister-like painting music, meeting this kind of demon, will immediately become unmistakable. Naturally, taking paint music with great power, Le Dem also took it in no way. Duan Lam has the reason for this task, also considering him the fire of magic and nature that the opposite of the devil has suppressed the effect, because the devil is mostly afraid of fire. Duan Lam the strip, except for the demon who harmed the person who resolved, and wanted to find the missing 3 disciples, so the subject issued 20 low-level blocks of the flexible component, considered relatively high reward. Summary of the considering here must not be too dangerous. Duan Lam immediately followed this task. Kim Kwok was in the southern beast. Duan Lam was estimated to be for 10 days to chase Kim Kwok a local browse. Tan Du Yet Tan Li Dat, a giant business in the real estate, is the #1 rich man. The direction of the Tong beasts entrusts the task, is Li Dat in Tan Du Yet became a great power, but for the summoned beast to say, this kind of worldly world is the #1 rich, basically will not notice. It was only because Li Dat has once entered the summoned beast to become a disciple, so from the beginning, Li Dat was entrusted to be able to enter the foreign summoned beast. Again because of the task of 3 foreign beasts disciples without any disappearance, this task again entered the interior of the road. Although Duan Lam said that this trip would not be too dangerous, but he did not dare to be vigilant. The 3 men who trained the 4-story disciples of the disciple without a reason, nor was it a small thing, not perfect, the underground sewer would flip the boat. Duan Lam also did not directly go to Li Dat Fuda, but disguised as a normal person, in Tan Du Yet Tan to ask for news. At the front, Duan Lam from Tong Tong received a lot of non-luang, so it was not lacking money. This is the mundane world, for many monks to say, basically do not pay attention. In a prostitute, Duan Lam spot the food later, giving to you Nhi a quantity of silver, hearing some news. Li Dat in the nearest demon house in Tan Du Yet Tan transmitted noisy, each time a period of time, Li Dat in the house would be someone who was killed by the devil. It is said that Li Dat Gia invited a lot of high-class Taoists, and could not solve it. So much so that the summoned beast of the 3 disciples, this whore was a little bit, did not know. Duan Lam did not ask any news. Tan Du Yet in the city, like basically, did not know the summoned beast that had once had a disciple to handle Li Dat Gia. Anyway, Duan Lam reflected on it was not bizarre, for them to cultivate the fairy to say, very few will join the people. The other 3 disciples went to Tan Du Yet Tan, roughly the structure also in the sneaky with Li Dat contacted, but Li Dat did not dare to praise them to release. For the mortal to say, the summoned beast is that they did not come to survive. Duan Lam found some of the beggar to ask for news, and the small whore as the words were not too different. Any more than a beggar but actually saying one thing, that is, Li Dat in the house every way to die, the body is all men. Duan Lam found a priority doctrine, could not hear more and more news. Anyway for Li Dat historian, there is a little knowledge. It is said that Li Dat Gia is from his father and his father began to move to Tan Du Yet Tan, then in Tan Du Yet Tan slowly worked as a great deal. Now Tan Du Yet completely deserved the #1 rich. Finally seeing that he did not come to any news, Duan Lam decided to go to see this one time Li Dat, looking at what happened after all. Li Dat Fuda in Tan Du Yet Tan East, occupying the geography of more than 20 models, is the largest Tan Du Yektan Dianda. Cao to Cao San 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 San, San 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 seriously, full chapter Hein Dat wealthy. Li Dat Jia's big gate, standing 4 fat guys. Duan Lam went forward, in which a great Han man said, I came from the countryside to trust for the end of the assistant, requesting to notify down. Dai Han looked at Duan Lam dressed, pouting, saying, come back to a eat and not sit. From Li Dat Giafu later, each time a period of time, there was from the hometown to trust Li Dat. The ends, the giants were especially enthusiastic, even a little and Li Dat threw 8 sao and did not come to people, also beat Li Dat to his fuss, find the door. This 4 great Han guys soon saw no blame, so looking at Duan Lam normal costumes, immediately thought that it was a hometown. Next, Dai Han asked Duan Lam, Li Dat's hometown of the question, confirmed that Duan Lam must be Li Dat from his hometown. Give you 2 silver taels, run quickly. After saying that, Dai Han directed Duan Lam at his feet to throw 2 silver taels, urging Duan Lam to run quickly to leave, later without finding again. This method is the method, is Li Dat in this case after applying the method. Duan Lam the purpose is to mix Li Dat in the palace, nor does this want this cowardly silver. In fact, entering the palace of Duan Lam to say, a little difficulty was not available, even directly exposed to his identity, the other Li Dat could directly kneel him directly in front of the monk. But Duan Lam analyzed this time the situation, felt not so simple, so immediately thought before finding the status, sneaking into the understanding of understanding, the evil was in the end. Duan Lam brought 2 amounts of silver picked up, immediately left, it seemed that fake body fake is not possible. Along the road and then for a long time, Duan Lam looked at a fortune teller, suddenly intentionally. Duan Lam gave the fortune teller 10 silver, buying him all the fortune. After the grave tea, Duan Lam completely turned into another person. Yang Lam holds the ceiling, the body crosses, outside the mouth of the beard. Taoist before and after, distinguishing the world. Duan Lam again slowly went to Li Dat's door, rested for a while, then made the 4 great men, pinched only. The owner of the killing intent to the sky, afraid of a lot of things. Duan Lam changed the sound, for the 4 great Han guys. As soon as he heard Duan Lam this, the 4 great Han men faced the great face, immediately brought Duan Lam to welcome into the palace. Now like Duan Lam like that, it is true that reason is urgent need, for great droughts naturally do not dare to delay. Li Dat had just been in the palace, Duan Lam too quickly met him, a serious spirit of middle-aged people. For Yang Lam, Li Dat was a bit skeptical from the beginning, too in Duan Lam to say in the murderous cover of the gathering place when Li Dat did not dare to delay him. Duan Lam so pointed out to the locality, just in front of the local. According to Li Dat as words, his family happened, the earliest was in a gulp in a well discovered a deadly family inside. In the dentist also came to the test, not found him killing the local, can only go to suicide. Unexpectedly in a period of time later, a family member died in the well, this made Li Dat in the palace immediately panicked. Because of avoiding the chaos, Li Dat lowered the order of the order, giving this vice family in the house a lot of money, making them not need to be chaotic. Following Li Dat as a person to bring his wells up. 7 days later, there was a vicar, unjustly missing, how could they not find it? Finally, the wind was opened, indeed inside discovered the body. Li Dat has no way, immediately from the outside pulled the earth, bringing the deep well to fill it up. Because of solving the problem, Li Dat invited to the Taoist and highly increased, and in the well side of the well, the French were in a row. Li Dat said that the situation passed, did not think about, 5 days later, a vice family missing, also no matter how they found it. Finally, in the land buried in the well, found it and this guy disappeared. Li Dat in the house completely exploded, the servants were all in the duck news, in the government, There were a few servants at night seeing Le Devil, the news that they started spreading. Li Dat in front of the back invited hundreds of high people, before and after, there was no cause. About the summoned beast of the 3 disciples here, Li Dat did not say. Until now, Li Dat in the government has died 11 of the deputy, all for masculinity. Duan Lam brought this masculine died most time signing down to the bottom, discovering on each time to 10 days, immediately will die 1 person. But, of which nearly 20 days of time, no more than any problem. Duan Lam brought in the suspicion of saying, Li Dat HAC face, nor did he answer. Followed Bing Lam followed Li Dat to the beside the well, carefully observing. This is really nothing specific, simply dead, around the martyrs relatively much. Duan Lam even lowered and the bottom of the well, and did not discover any problem. Repeated many times the dead, moreover, all died in the well, the deep well has no problem, that is, there are people who intentionally bring the body to the body. Deo, have you ever seen the problem? Li Dat asked. Li first does not need to be granted, the religion is still in the investigation. Duan Lam waved his hand and said, Chief of the Director, not that I am impatient, really, I have no measures, these days I always slept, always dreaming of being damaged. I can also look out, the head of yours and the front to find people is not the same, and sometimes saving the whole family. Li Dat finished speaking, resident of Duan Lam knelt down. This made Duan Lam a bit surprised. Maybe Li Dat could see his identity, should not. The truth proves, Li Dat is true to discover Duan Lam. This makes Duan Lam aware of an event, the world can become an elderly, great force is not so simple. Perhaps they will not be magic, but they are the discreet thoughts, are wanting to overcome many of the fairies. Duan Lam did not know where to reveal his identity, immediately set in suspicion. Master, although he is a camouflage to calculate before the Taoist PAR, but he confronts us the secular people of this kind of person in the bone of the attitude, is the illegal change, and the front up to the same 3 monks like casting. Li Dat said. Duan Lam the only knew where the problem was, real, he had been in the summoned beast for several years, and the same summoned beasts of the same disciples, for the people filled with contempt, the total feeling that he himself was a fairy, high in the upper. For Li Dat, this type is good at seeing the face of the person, it is really easy to expose. Duan Lam finally did not have Li Dat to despise the mind, the inner inside, also reminded himself, he himself had many localities, wanted to join Li Dat like that. Tu Tien world of big fish swallows small fish, wants to survive down, only based on the magic cannot be. The fairy also sometimes moved to move the room. Li Dat said. Li Dat brought Duan Lam to the middle room, followed by the 3 summoned beasts who came back later. The summoned beast of 3 disciples, led the wisdom, is a knowledgeable person using the disciples' foreign magic system. This news, Duan Lam to the front was also knowledgeable. The 3 of them went to Li Dat, directly came to him, explaining his intention to come. For the 3 fairies that have come, Li Dat naturally is happy, saying that in the house the problem is really possible to solve. For the 3 monks, Li Dat naturally delicious wine for food, not daring to be a little delay. 3 people in Li Dat foodisk there for a long time, especially the wells there, Li Dat pigs followed as words, there was no local abnormal detection. 3 negotiated later, immediately decided at Li Dat Fu to stay. Speaking of it is also bizarre, from the 3 fairies and then later, Li Dat in the palace immediately was not deadly. 3 total people in the government were in 20 days, this is also Duan Lam discovered that Li Dat Kia during this time was not deadly. Immediately in the 3 people in the 21st palace, there was something. Originally, the 3 of them thought that the dangers of the devil were afraid of their strength were not good, was completely reassured, even here one day, the 3 people in Tan Du Yet Tan played for a long time. Majesty urban example or many, 3 people import and export fireworks Willow Alley, left and right to embrace, extremely active. Compared to the dry summoned beast, Tan Du Yet is indeed a paradise. The 3 people still played until late at night to return to Li Dat Gia, just entered the palace, immediately discovered that it was not right, especially the deep well there, killing intent. The 3 people hurriedly went to bring the wells opened, indeed in the well discovered had just died to the butler. Experiencing a surge, Wan Kan discovered a few clues. In the same Li Dat simply said a few sentences later, Vuan Kan immediately carried the other 2 people chasing. From here later, there was no news. From the 3 monks after disappearing, Li Dat Dain started each time a way of death. The whole of the human Penri panic, if it was not the reason for the vice-level family, the widely increased and the remuneration, feared that the person would dare to save in the inside of the palace. Vuan Kan before leaving, as you say? Duan Lam asked. Vuan Tiansu said he had investigated the demon devil, if it was within 3 days they did not return, causing me to direct the summoned beasts to the hospital. Duan Lam frowned and frowned, a little suspicious. Wan Wisdom finally discovered something. How could he predict them, the possibility of them yet? In front of my eyes, I came in the news, probably not a few people know, you run quickly to order orders. Duan Lam said. Li Dat is a smart person, really quickly burdened the animal, immediately arranged to go down. Really, Li Dat in the government knew, there was a hometown to his nephew coming to trust him. Because Yang Lam changed a case of Ma Sam raw fabric, in the palace all knew, this was a poor relative. It is just that Li Dat always does not like the poor people, this time against Duan Lam enthusiastically, making people difficult to understand. At the ultimate party, Li Dat was the 8th in Ditai room, misunderstood Li Dat's intention, for Duan Lam Langan satirical, not thinking directly by Li Dat to throw a slap. This is my nephew, his father that year for me to save his life. In the government, if he dared to delay him, so don't blame me for no guests. Li Dat said angrily. In a short period of time, everyone opposes Duan Lam to wipe his eyes and look, excitedly definition Duan Lam true identity. There are even implicit people who discuss, Duan Lam is or not Li Dat Dat Tu Sen Tu, if not speaking, Li Dat will beat him the most favor of Bat Ditai. Duan Lam for everyone whispered softly, all naturally heard, too much he was always protesting, sometimes he would observe around him. Here there is a relative of the upper body, Duan Lam has not discovered anything with the spiritual energy. For deep wells the dead, Duan Lam in front of his eyes had no clue, could only hide it, calmly see this variable. Based on the usual past, Men Van now must want to be dead. Therefore, after the dinner, after the end, Duan Lam immediately in the potential well. This night, Duan Lam waited for a night, no problem. Did he come to the news to reveal? Yang Lam before and after brushing once again, feeling the possibility of not being great. For Yang Lam so monks, short-term internal without rest, basically no influence. Therefore, early in the morning, Duan Lam immediately at Li Dat Fu was everywhere walking. Huai, you stop. Duan Lam turned around, looking at a pristine ponytail, slender figure, white skin, good appearance. If it was launched to Duan Lam formerly on the planet, absolutely belonged to many central goddesses. Heard you are my father and death. Girl one sentence, directly making Duan Lam Vio Engu. Yesterday, the ultimate party had a nonsense, now Li Dat new resident has come to the door. Little lady, you should not say nonsense, I and your father have no blood relations. Duan Lam said. Who did you say that the little lady, where did I be small? The young woman said, she was still chest. Duan Lam laughed, not thinking about Li Dat this woman could even pass. Following Duan Lam and the young woman talked for a while, knowing that Li Dat this woman called Li Man, he was the youngest who was the most fond of women, this year was just 15 years old. For the inside of the government, Li Man Island is not fearless, because everyone is saying, in the people of harming people is the demon, only knowing that the man will not kill the woman. So you know what the demon is like? Duan Lam asked. Ask me if you look like asking people. Li Man said, anyway, you want to say first. You have to be afraid. You are male. That's right. I am a bit scared. I am also in consideration, whether or not you have to leave your house. Hey, the island does not need, you must not find you. Li Man suddenly said. Young women have a sentence, making Duan Lam in horror. It seems that Li Man is clearly the situation. Li Dat 8 parts are to hide a few things. From the girl in her mouth, Duan Lam gradually understands the female demon. According to the young woman, according to the words, this female demon, she must be called Ant. Originally his father Li Dat a small concubine, calling Lutan. Lutan is originally a female farmer, TNSI quality. Roughly a year ahead, being taken by his father Quang to occupy. Lutan has a mistress of mistress, calling Vuong Wen. Looking at Lutan was occupied by Li Dat Ba, again helpless, immediately thought of a mixed way and Li Dat in the government, becoming a deputy. Wan Yuan became a deputy later, often ran to Lutan accommodation, and Lutan dated. But the two people obviously despised in another employee, immediately at a date when some people discovered the situation of theft told Li Dat. Waiting for Li Dat to bring everyone when they came, the two main people took off in bed. Li Dat Truong immediately violently sent the two to bring the two people to go out, touching the death. Wan Yuan bodies, extended to foreign government, prestigious grain, but Lutan T. Tak Dat was buried in deep in the well. Lutan, after his death on the 10th day, in the government, started to happen, but made Li Dat did not think about the things, deep in the well, Lutan T could not see. Li Man followed all the words, Duan Lam did not think about it. It seems that Li Dat is all obvious, but hidden true truth. Perhaps because of the bad thing in the house, perhaps because of the other, if not Li Man, he could not know. In the government, about Lutan, the situation, affirmed that he was ordained by Che Fong, otherwise Duan Lam would not be outside to ask for no news. Li Man is still a young woman, in her heart without words. It is also likely because of showing off, immediately bringing the actual situation to speak out. Rising like that, Li Dat was also considered as a stormy wind. Duan Lam helped but did not help, but was the other three disciples. He was his fellow. He was necessary to find back. Live to see the dead must see the body. Duan Lam was a bit before and after not thinking carefully. Immediately Willow will become a devil. How could he be 3-4 story foreign disciples of his opponent's disciples? Did Lutan have the other side to help? If so, then it must be a little perfect. Do not save the subject. Bring yourself to return. Duan Lam quietly thought. At night, Duan Lam continued to be potential in the surrounding well. As expected, soon, there was a happening, a foolish gaze of the vice gaze and walked in the direction of the well. Duan Lam noticed, this family, in fact, was dead, just had a demon Ellie clinging to him, manipulating him, going into the beside the well, then a talented head came in. Actually, Ellie Devil turned into a group of black fog, from the deep in the well to fly, in the fleeting to blow away. Duan Lam also did not show his body, but far away, but followed this critical evil. Taking him a monk, this only the demon basically could not detect him. If Yang Lam guesses not wrong, this is only a devil, Lutan. Ellie Devil really flew to Li Dat outside the outside room, appearing the body, as expected, it was Li Man So describing Lutan Babadi. Lutan at first glance wanted to enter Li Dat's room, and then hesitated. After a while, finally determined, towards Li Dat to launch. At this moment, a needle from Li Dat in the room flew out, bringing Lutan to fly away. Lutan was miserable and groaned, frantically fleeing. Duan Lam followed closely after that, always followed Lutan. Actually, Lutan fled to Tandu yet into the southwest of Accord, breaking the temple in the middle. Duan Lam observed the temple to break a fen, which could feel the murdering temple to the sky, fearing that Lutan was a devil. What kind of thing is this? Duan Lam is inherent. Breaking the temple of the Department of Murderer, he did not dare to directly enter the crumbling temple. Most people enter the back into the demon surrounding the middle, the other is not out. He was the biggest force, painting music, and a little magic did not know. Taking Le Devil had absolutely no way. Duan Lam thought for a long time, still felt unable to act arbitrarily. Le Devil in the evening of the strongest war, the day was relatively weak. Duan Lam decided tomorrow to come and check this a little bit of the temple. Back in the palace, Duan Lam went directly to Li Dad to live, bringing today to discover the evil situation with Li Dad said a bit. So much so that Lutan's situation, Duan Lam did not say, Li Dad hid this. He also did not need to expose. For the other bringing the demon to beat Kim Kwang, Li Dad, but actually there was no hidden. Li Dad took out his bedroom and hanged a small metal sword, handed it to Duan Lam in his hand. Duan Lam can feel. This gives Kim Sak Sak Kim Tudok not low. Compared to him, the subject of the spirit is good. This is our ancestors who used to sword. Their ancestors died before. Immediately brought the sword to save in the family, saying that they could protect the posterity safely. Li Dad said. At home, the situation, his master should also know. I do not have to intentionally hide him. Really bad things in the house cannot be transmitted. I really don't know how to mention. During the day, the little girl must have brought the situation to him, that I arrange her to do so, and sometimes the master wants to meet the monster. Li Dad finished speaking, kneeling Duan Lam in front of him. 1. Duan Lam at this time was transparent. Li Man would suddenly appear. Master, I know that I have won the female before, but Lutan, if I became a woman, carried me with the other, I finally brought the two of them to death, and there was no other choice, otherwise this one would be transmitted. We had to become a joke in Tandu yet. She died later. I did not know why this. One harmed one in the government. I thought that she had harmed a few people later, but she did not think about it. She basically won't ignore it. Also, the monk saved me the whole family. The fact that he came to this country, Duan Lam also illegally went to comment who was right and who was wrong. This world possesses the fact, if it is true, it can be divided right and wrong, so simple. A lot of things, isn't it true that Li Dad Gia is the same? A mistake, bringing mistakes. You stand up first, wait for the sky to be bright, you bring deep in the body of the body to dig out perfectly, then bring this sword, let me go out to the temple. Duan Lam said. Designed later, Duan Lam brought Li Dad to the outside of the temple. This court broke the temple, heard that there were a few hundred years of history. Before there were a few Taoists inside, the closest a few decades began to desert, a few people picked up corpses, often launched to this place. During the day, breaking the temple of killing intent is clearly weakened. Duan Lam also does not feel anything dangerous. Duan Lam brought painted music to release, then commanded painted music to go in and broke the middle temple. As soon as he saw such a tall painted music, Li Dad from the beginning threatened a shock. 2 followed in the heart of the great determination, obviously for Duan Lam to strengthen. Sun music music music, although he could not deal with Le Devil, but Le Devil also took it without measures, so Duan Lam did it before he entered the temple to visit the situation. Because painting the gibbon is Duan Lam Lin Beast, he can through the painted music of the eyes to observe in the temple ruining the situation. During the daytime, there was nothing specific in the day. Inside, there were nearly 100 coffins, a few people who released a few people who received the body. In the middle of the temple, displaying a few statues of meteorological characters, because for many years no manager, falling down so thick. Seeing nothing unusually abnormal, Duan Lam also went into the crumbling temple. Immediately an ancient poem rushed straight in his nose. Huan came to Duan Lam a little thought. Li Dad hugged the other needle. His legs were shaking, fiercely followed Duan Lam. Duan Lam endured hard to hear the taste. In the crumbling temple for a walk, he even painted the music of the gibbon so many coffins. Inside was normal body, nor had anything. In the face of the face, there are 10 to 20 years, leaving only the remaining way. There was a clogged body still in the rotten middle. Li Dad looked later, directly could not help down, constantly vomiting. Last night, Duan Lam clearly saw the great killing intent, but now he discovered that the cause was not the cause, thus making Duan Lam a little uncomfortable. Duan Lam went into the outside of the foreign temple, quietly looking at the air, constantly wondering in front of the situation. In the immediate future, I met Eli Dem Lutan, but I could not find the back of the character. Duan Lam can cross the part. There is definitely someone behind this manipulation all. Because Eli Devil Lutan is so powerful, is the most miraculous temperament, absolutely unable to be a summoned beast of 3 disciplesh. Go, call people here, bring this to me to destroy me. Duan Lam said. Li Dad obeyed the following command. Immediately responded to Tan Du Yet Tan to call him. Really, Li Dad immediately brought hundreds of people to break the temple. The vast majority were 230 years old. In Duan Lam, he asked to each a. Li Dad brought him with him, bringing in the temple to ruin the coffin each lifted out. In the crumbling temple, it is difficult to hear the taste, leading and the number of people vomiting, especially those that are rotten body, is more terrorist. But in Li that's great amount of money rewarded, the majority of people can persevere in going down. Immediately calculated a little want to run, also with Li Dad authority, did not dare to leave. Half a day later, everyone finally brought the amount of coffin from the crumbling temple to lift, under the violent sunlight. Li Dad made the person who took the amount of easy to conduct the fire of objects, and the coffin was together. Next release of fire, bringing the coffin of fire. The big fire burned up, bringing the amount of the body of the coffin to burn white vibes. Duan Lam stared at the big fire, still not moving. Suddenly, the fire inside, escaping 2 bodies, heading to see everyone jumped up. Immediately in front of a new bodies had just rushed. A big sun served the body in front of him. The 2 only big hands caught the body of the neck, using a little force, directly bringing the body to hold down. The head is so far away, so scared that one to the young man sits on the ground. On the other hand, a body of the body, more tragic, just rushed out shortly, was cut off by Lin Keen Lam's hands, followed by the head. Duan Lam discovered, this body and that, just need to fall, and will not move again. There are people at the exam preparation. This is Duan Lam looking at the body after thinking. You are currently bringing people to the temple to explore, and the giants say clearly, each corner cannot let go. Duan Lam said. Li Dad brought everyone into the crumbling temple, started and then dragged. Each place, Li Dad arranged people carefully to consider a few variables, even on the wall, he did not let go. Also did not know who was touched. In the ruined temple suddenly appeared an underground religion. Duan Lam slightly smiled. As expected, this place was like he thought, had an agency. This could also explain him last night to look at the sky of killing. Duan Lam looked at this a little underground base, waving his hand, painting the music of the gibbon without hesitation. Followed by the inside and heard the sound of the sound. Duan Lam, although outside, can be through painted music of gibbon to understand the inner situation. Underground the religion went down nearly 10 meters, immediately appeared a hall. In the hall in the same form, there were many bodies, there were a few devils. Sun music dance was very big, his arm, bringing one again a body to tear. So much so that the evil, with Duan Lam guess the same, take the music of the gibbon basically no measures. The music of the gibbon brought in the hall of the whole body to the whole island later. Duan Lam also followed to the middle hall. So much so that Li Dad, Duan Lam made him carry everyone in the Magrius temple waiting. Duan Lam dropped out of a fire, brought in the hall of Le Dem all killed. Duan Lam was unintended, he did not detect Lutan. The hall facing the side, there are 3 small doors. Sun music a right to bring small intermediaries to break, smuggled inside each pot of ceramic pots. Duan Lam brought the pottery pots opened, carefully observed later, discovered that they were ashes. Next, Duan Lam again painted music to open to the left of the small door. On the left in the room, a little exam to use flags, waiting for items. At an upper table, there is a little discharge without using charms. Finally, painted the music of the ape open to the right of the small door. Looking at the right of the small door, Duan Lam immediately pulled down. Because in this place, he saw the 3 sidewalks of foreign disciples. In other words, Vuongkan waited for 3 people, which was in this place. Except for this, Duan Lam also discovered that 3 people storage bags, summoned beasts of storage bags were special marked. So Duan Lam glanced at one immediately. In the immediate future, 3 people were enlightened. Duan Lam brought 3 people clothes and storage bags. In the hall walking through around, there was no discovery whatever the agency. Duan Lam went outside, bringing Li Dad here, whispering to Saya Fen. Li Dad nodded, following the beginning to arrange the defense of the lower person based on Duan Lam's request to be busy. Actually, a car again a branch of firewood was pulled back here, again a bundle of people hugged and then underground in the hall. Li Dad arranged this person to bring this fire to the fire, in the hall of real smoke. Li Dad again made the people open, on the ground, surrounding the local smoke. Duan Lam speculated that this place confirmed that there was an agency, he did not detect. Immediately, this reason was that the defense was looking for, it was not sure to be able to find it, so he thought of this measure. If there is space below, there will definitely be peaceful. There is also the cultivation of the evil spirit, most of the fire, this is Duan Lam to do so a cause. As expected, as Duan Lam so conjectured, soon, Li Dad defended, immediately discovered 2 local smoking places. Duan Lam made paint as a music gibbon held at the outside of the temple, he himself went to consider this 2 places. This 2 places where Li's location is really close, only 200-300 meters, Duan Lam brought 2 places to remember carefully, looking at the temple, in the heart of roughly understanding. If the bottom also hides the space, definitely here 3 points below. Based on Duan Lam's request, Li Dad again browsed into 1,000 people here, all are young people who are coded with labor. Duan Lam base himself on the ground drawing a great range, doing well marking. 1,000 people turned around Duan Lam to work well, starting to go down to dig. Many people are great forces, 1,000 people use iron shovels waiting for the tool, bring a car to go down to go out. The reason for so many people here is because Duan Lam thought before it was dark and hidden in the underground. Once coming and at night, cultivating the evil art of the real power will increase. Moreover, control the demon will also increase the strength. Until then, handled up immediately will be relatively difficult to solve. Until the afternoon, 1,000 trenches were estimated to have 677 maximum, finally found and hid in the underground space. Along Duan Lam predicted the same, underground halls on the back, there was space, just because they could not find the agency, they could not enter. Through Duan Lam method, although many troubles, but in the end, it is still convenient to find. Underground space was dug behind, a cave door suddenly exuded to the amount of sound, 5 to the young people in the next ear, directly collapsed on the ground. Duan Lam looked at the situation, immediately made the people bring out 5 people, also made the rich run out. Take them to the sun's affluent sun, so over the time they will wake up. Duan Lam said. Duan Lam knows, this is the underground space of the person who started to counterattack, the situation behind, this and that, the human being immediately did not need to attend. Sun music giving off the local air breaking a great speech, then jumped down. Underground appears a bigger space. Painted music with new apes just down has been surrounded by the examination of the exam. In fact, this practice preparation is too weak. Most of them only train the most realistic guess. Sun music is like a place without people, a right to fly exam preparation. Especially painted music with a little martial arts, extraordinary body flexible. Any more than 15 minutes of time, painted the music of the ape and brought dozens of people to practice the whole exam to fall to the ground. The vast majority of the head was also nin down. If it was the other on the other hand, it was not so powerful, and finally bite the statue. But meeting will martial arts painted music, there is a 7-story mental gas, also considered this to prepare for unlucky exams. Duanlam is also later known, the summoned beast of 3 disciples, is losing here that prepares the exam in hand. Under the ground, the space deep inside, standing a black body of a black man. Looking at the entire exam preparation, the black man on his forehead flowing out of a cold sweat. Exam preparation was held later. Duanlam also went down, standing in the music painted in the back, coldly looking not far away from the black man. You are not resentful, need nothing to go to the step. Distinguish a moment later, Angie the black shirt finally talked. So if you want to see if you can or not get it enough to buy money. Duanlam said. Buying money, the larges are so great. I am really equivalent, and then this person is a little interest in love with a little strength. Perhaps I think I don't prepare it later. The black man said. Don't be afraid to say what you can pay. 50 low-level blocks of lin thatch, what do you think? The summoned beast of the 3 disciples, is it still alive? You said the 3 small character A, soon died. I was in consideration to bring them into exam preparation. The black shirt had just finished speaking, painting the gibbon and went up. Yang Lam in his hand, also condensed a great fireball, then for the black shirt to throw out. The black shirt obviously not thinking of Duanlam will suddenly take action. The reaction is a bit slow, the body jerked. Weakly harmed the taste from painting the music of the gibbon holding hands, any more than the right on the shoulder was still eating a right. The black-armed black shirt pressed, quickly in the front condensed into a group of black mist, preventing flying to the fire. The fire bridge stabbed in the black mist, emitted a lightning strike, then the fire and the black dew were dissipated together. The black shirt man was removed by the music of the music, and there were no rhythmic disorders, and he could avoid escaping the music of the ape. Inside the war, the black man walked a step back to a pottery pot first, then a right to break the ceramic vase. The pottery vase inside, flying out a great demon union, really condensing into a devil shape. This is only a devil, about 3 meters too high, the whole body is immense fog, the 2 only very large eyes, setting up pink people. This is only the demon power, has reached the 6-story gas training. This makes Yang Lam a bit unintended, the present is still daytime, if it is the evening, this only the demon power is not higher. The new devil has just been present, immediately turned to Duanlam to come here. Duanlam laughed coldly, treating Ellie devil to his side when his right hand suddenly a lot of small metal swords. Duanlam Nhat keen stabbed out, directly plastered an Ellie devil on his body. Immediately, the quantity of metal light from the demon on the booming person. Kim Kwang Lee's opposite demon created a great deal of damage, every batch of jarring sound, from the evil in his mouth emitted. Kim Kwang flooded, really covered in Ellie devil, too much of the respiratory trem enders, Ellie dem was disintegrated by Kim Kwang. This all arose too quickly, waiting for the black shirt to discover the devil disappear when the inner part of the fear. The black shirt was influenced, the reaction was half a rhythm slowly, painted by the music of the ape right to blend on his head, hitting him with his eyes full of stars. At this moment, Duanlam has come back here, most swords stabbed into the black shirt. Kim Kwang again exploded again, bringing the black-chested brought actually a great hole. Really, the black-headed man has a majestic, no breath. The black-shirt person, Although cultivating the devil, said miscellaneous Dharma, but although why is it also a person, so Kim Kwang did not bring him like the same demon. This also made the Stuan Lam bring Kim Keen with awareness, roughly, only the devils can be hurt. For people, immediately the power is weakened. In fact, such a weapon is also considered difficult to get treasures. If not Li Dat Kim Keem, Duan Lam immediately thought of killing black people. It was also very difficult. Duan Lam in the black man on his body searched for a fen, found a bag of storage, then dropped out of a fire, brought the black body to turn into ashes. Duan Lam again under the ground space for half a day, finding a few potential in Jung Le demon pottery. Any more real strength is not intense, which also includes Lutan and Li Dat Gia died a few deputy. As for this, it has turned into a devil spirit. Duan Lam naturally will not ignore, all destroys, otherwise the demon will go out, and will die more and more people. Unexpectedly in destroying Lutan in front, Duan Lam asked Li Dat's opinion. Li Dat knows his shame, pleading with Duan Lam to let go of Lutan. Duan Lam naturally directed him to explain the situation. Lutan became a demon, absolutely could not be saved, necessary to destroy. Seeing no other options, Li Dat could only agree to Duan Lam the plan. In destroying Lutan ahead, Li Dat offered a request. Duan Lam naturally agreed. Because of safe Dat, Duan Lam brought Kim Sak Sak to him, leaving the space underground. Entering the ground, Duan Lam breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, the sky was black down. Li Dat brought people. Around the body of the spot emerged countless torches, bringing the night sky to the same day as the same day. Duan Lam looked full of stars. There was a kind of truthful feeling. This kind of feeling from him goes into this world, sometimes will come out. A lot of times, Duan Lam hopes this is a dream. Perhaps he awake he can return to the world. It's just that there will be such a dream. Honestly, every voice of movement is clear. Duan Lam is transparent. The so-called dream idea, too much is consoling himself, the world of the world, he is unable to return. Li Dat under the ground space and Lutan talked about 2 hours. For what two people talked about, Duan Lam did not know, but did not want to know. This was Li Dat too, and he did not have sex. Anyway, Duan Lam discovered Li Dat on the face, with a bit of tears. Dat brought everyone to distribute later, and Duan Lam sat together, looking at the sky and staring in the sky. Lutan was Phi Phi Thang. Duan Lam lowered his hand. Duan Lam looked out to Li Dat, so he wanted to say, so he was always beside him. Yang Tian, do you have to think that I am a sin? Li Dat suddenly asked. Duan Lam, but actually there was no direct answer, just quiet, representing his attitude. Ti except for the demon, finding 3 fellow men falling down, with him that he should do the situation. Assisting Li Dat is just a good hand. But for Li Dat to do such things, Duan Lam was inwardly disapproving. Enriching inhumane, for example, too much. Li Dat is not the first, nor the end one. Duan Lam also did not punish Li Dat the idea, eventually the world of the world, and he did not have much relationship. He punished Li Dat today. The future will have Buang Dat, Tun Dat. He is not anything, just right of the messenger. But the next Li Dat said the old story, made Duan Lam shocked, also made him once again aware of this person. Li Dat ancestor, more than a monk, not a summoned beast, but the elderly beast, Trukko, the monk. It was just too far away. A few years ago, Li Gia went downhill, came to Li Dat Gia to gather when he was poor. Li Dat's father, also considered as a talented person, relying on doing business slowly, a bit of accumulation. Also in his father's accumulated later, the whole family moved and then browse. Because of earning money, Li Dat's father joined the local force, made some not recognized people. Although making a profit, but it is guilty of people. In a middle conflict, Li Dat's father was killed and fled by the person, and the 2 men left. At that time, Li Dat was only 10 years old, had a slight wound, continuously hungry. A few days later,
everyone was in a coma. The original Li Dat said that he must die without doubt, not to think, to be saved by the same age as a female comedian. This female comedy is Lu Tan's mother. Li Dat until now remember clearly, this delicate female comedy appeared. Also at this moment, the female comedy went into Li Dat in her heart. Although young age, but each other are good. Li Dat, for thanks to his life, even swore to heaven, saying the future will definitely welcome the female beast. But as a creator, from now on Li Dat has experienced a lot of things. Waiting for a few years, he returned to find a female comedy again, discovered that the female comedian had already moved away. Li Dat suffered to find a female comedy that could not work, could only bring the story to hide at the bottom of her heart. From now on, Li Dat fed the good fortune. The intention was getting better and better, especially Li Dat. Compared to him, the more excellent of his mind was the more his mind. Li Gia gradually browsed into the number one rich. Anyway, Li Dat and his father have a great deal of disagreements. Li Dat said that he wanted to do great, needed to escape the underground power. Permanent underground is underground, up no table surface. Especially being chased to kill this story, making Li Dat the memory of deep carving. Li Dat in the back of Kin Thuangchun grasped the great enlightenment, slowly brought the product to come and then many fields, moreover, focused on good maintenance. If you encounter a great accident in the year, Li Dat will also take the lead. Normal day will also cultivate the road, because Tan Du Yet becomes a wise nature Ji little good story. Therefore, Li Dat Tan Dan, always very bad. A few years ago, Li Dat suddenly met the female farmer Lu Tan, and her mother with an appearance of 8-9 feces. Looking at the youth Lu Tan, Li Dat immediately thought of the other buried in his heart. Through asking, Li Dat clearly understands, Lu Tan is the time before the female comedian. In the past, the female comedian in the house because of a little situation, it was impossible not to move away, so Li Dat later went to find it again, and did not come to the female comedy. In fact, the female comedian is always in Tan Du Yet Tan, just Tan Du Yet Tan is too big, immense the sea of the middle. Li Dat no longer has this girl. Li Dat asked Lu Tan's body, knowing that the mother had passed away. Li Dat also expert to Lu Tan's mother in front of the tomb to worship, and moreover, he would definitely show the perfect willow. Nothing, Li Dat is so-called mad, not for the female projection, but to bring Lu Tan to the small card. Li Dat did so, mainly because Lu Tan and her mother grew up really too similar. Li Dat in the biggest heart regretted that she did not marry her mother, so Li Dat thought of bringing Lu Tan to return, his Veen him that year dreamed. This is Li Dat Mong Chang, but not Lu Tan Mong Tuong. Li Dat even did not have too much referendum. In him, he thought of, just needed Lu Tan Vin to be rich and wealthy, good to drink well. He also basically did not know, Lu Tan also had a small mistress. Lu Tan also did not like with him the same mother-in-law dad, nor did he think what he wanted to be rich and wealthy, only thinking more than two small Japanese people. This, it is also all the tragedy began. The situation behind, Duong Lam was also clear, tragedy also from Li Dat brought Lu Tan Quang to start. Lu Tan was caught in the bed, so many people looked at, Li Dat felt that his old face had to throw it all, under anger, making the person who brought two people to chaos to beat him to death. Without a black shirt person, he would have died. Saying coincidence is also coincidentally, the black shirt at that time asked for fostering the devil, especially with the great resentment of the devil. Lu Tan was naturally good to choose. That's why Lu Tan once again was harmed in the male government, because it was these people who brought her to death. Lu Tan also thought of killing Li Dat, not fearing with Li Dat in Kim Kim's room, still not succeeding. Li Dat said later, cried without loud. They all say that men have tears but not easily fall, just not to be pitiful. Duong Lam can explain that's heart, even think, If changed to him, how will he do? Yang Lam under the ground space in one place hidden, found, and the 3 disciples of the body. The black shirt must think of taking them 3 people to practice, just not even it was time to be killed by Duong Lam. Li Dat Jia's affair resolved, the 3 missing men who fell down also investigated, the story here was finished. Duong Lam also calculated the subject of the subject. Again before leaving, Li Dat brought Kim Kim to Duong Lam, thanking him to support remuneration. Duong Lam also did not take his object, let Li Dat a little help the human body strengthen the body of the medicine and the year Truongbao destiny. Hey, there is a talisman, and the tutu is very large, nor does it need spiritual energy, the power is also a lot, all is Duong Lam often collected every day. Anyway, for the mortal to say, it is completely enough to use, can destroy a few devils. Kim Kim is a security, Duong Lam also promises, as required, can later help Li Gia to take action once. Duong Lam left a charm, as a belief. Duong Lam returned to the subject, brought the task of communication later, received 20 low-level flexible blocks of remuneration, immediately returned to the pharmacist.